Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Donald Trump now has 5 days to come up with nearly $500 million. And things are not looking so good for him on that front. The deadline to pay his judgment in the New York State civil fraud case is March 25th. That is next Monday. That means he has got less than a week to pony up the more than $450 million he owes in penalties plus interest for his fraudulent business practices. Now, normally in a situation like this, a person in Trump's position would secure a bond. He would put up some collateral, and then a third party would front the rest of the cost. Here's the thing. He can't get one. At least according to Trump's lawyers, they say he tried 30 different times to get a bond, and he was turned down each time. At one level, that's kind of surprising. I mean, Trump may significantly over-exaggerate his wealth, but he's not poor. He owns many valuable assets, including multiple expensive properties. Trump Tower, Mar-a-Lago, his own Doral Resort in Florida, a bunch of others. For any other businessman, those assets would function perfectly well as collateral. But of course, the problem is this is not any other businessman. This is Donald Trump, a notorious lifelong con man. No one with the wealth to front him the cash will do it because they know that somehow he will ultimately leave them holding the bag. This subtext was made explicit by Fox, of all places.
He's having a devil of a time putting up this bond.
And his friends aren't stepping up. I mean, this is something that I've asked today. Well, I've been asking Wall Street people that know they're not stepping up.
What's their reason? They're afraid they're never going to see the money again?
I have no idea what their exact reason. You want me to postulate here?
Sure. It's a family show.
Well, that's like a non sequitur there. But anyway, but I just think that they don't think they're going to get their money back, as you say.
Well, do you want me to speculate? Yeah, it's what you said. They're not going to get their money back. Things have gotten so dire, in fact, that former Trump staffer Larry Kudlow is now, listen to this, just openly begging billionaires to write the ex-president a check on air.
Kevin O'Leary, I think this is where it's going to go. Now, I was wondering, if he can't get to the Supreme Court, will you loan him the $460 million?
You know,
just to help, in order to protect America's name. Think of it that way.
To get the bond, he was able to get the $90+ million from Chubb.
Yeah.
I don't know of a bond more than $90 million. I don't recall one.
Yeah.
And so you need cash to back up the bond insurance. And so now we're talking about the terminology of seizing assets. That actually. That's foreign language to an American.
Well, it's not foreign language. I mean, assets get seized in America all the time, as a matter of fact. You'll notice Kevin O'Leary there not saying yes when Larry Kudlow asked him to front the money. So this is where Trump is at, having his buddies beg for money on his behalf. Bernie Marcus, the Trump-backing billionaire co-founder of Home Depot, was only slightly less pathetic in his recent opinion piece. Quote, there are several actions conservative donors should take to ensure that Trump-Biden, too, will have a different outcome than their first match. First, the different factions of the Republican Party must unite behind Trump and participate fully in the presidential election. Put another way, no one should sit out the presidential election or withhold their financial support to our nominee. And as it stands, Trump simply does not have the cash he needs by Monday. Without a bond, he's going to need to raise that cash by selling off assets. If he does not, New York State Attorney General Letitia James says she is ready to seize those assets instead. As you might imagine, this cuts to the bone for Donald Trump, a man who spent his entire public life building a mythology around himself as unfathomably wealthy and successful. One new report says the ex-president is in, quote, panic mode over the looming deadline. And a quick glance at his social media page proves as much. Quote, any business thinking about moving into New York State is crazy. Quote, this case should be over. But instead, the attorney general wants to abuse her power to steal my money. Quote, nobody has ever heard of anything like this before. I would be forced to mortgage or sell great assets, perhaps at fire sale prices. Arguably, the best evidence we have that Trump is freaking out is how strongly his campaign is denying he's freaking out. Using language we cannot repeat on this show, a campaign spokesman wrote, quote, these baseless innuendos are pure BS and fake news. Now, I will admit, speaking to you here now, that having watched the development of various legal cases against Trump, there's some part of me that thinks he's going to be saved by some last-minute miracle. He's going to find some appellate avenue to get some judge he appointed somewhere who's going to block the fine, or a rich benefactor will decide to pay it off to buy his favor. But even if he is to pull off a Hail Mary, time is running out. The clock is ticking closer to his literal judgment day. Joining me now, someone who has been covering Trump's financial peril very closely, Suzanne Craig. She's investigative reporter at the New York Times. Great to have you here.
Great to see you.
I want to start by setting the table of like how this would normally work, just because I'm not sure how this does normally work.
We've never seen this before, so let's just go forward knowing that we've never seen something this large involving somebody like Donald Trump. But this is a huge bond he's got to come up with.
Okay, so that's actually answers my first question. Like, there is no how this would normally work because you're not normally in a situation where you just got to come up with $500 million.
No, and that's why I've been carefully sort of working through some of the various avenues in the last few days because this is just so unusual. And he also has still some legal avenues left. And there's one thing I've learned about Donald Trump in my years of covering him. It's what you said, and it's don't count him out yet. He's facing a very, very harsh deadline on Monday, but he still has some avenues. One of them is an appeals court has to rule on this, and they're going to do so by Monday. I would expect it would come Thursday, probably Friday.
Okay.
And they could do a few things. They have some options. One is they could just say, let's stay this and put it off until the appeal has been seen through. I don't think that that is going to happen, but it's one option. The other option they have is he came to them and he said, I'd like the bond, the appeal bond that I have to put up to be at $100 million. They rejected that. But they could come up with a compromise that isn't this $500 million that he has said he cannot meet.
Okay, so the $500 million question, there's some liquid market for these kinds of bonds at smaller amounts. Right?
Right.
Like if you had a civil judgment against you for $5 million, I don't have $5 million in cash, there's some posting of collateral where the bondsman posts it.
Collateral's really tough for these companies that take the appeals bond. They want cash. They're not in the real estate business.
Right. They don't want to own Trump Tower. What does that do?
Right, and who knows what that's going to be worth in 3 years or 2 years when this is seen through. They want something they can liquidate in the markets that night.
And clearly he doesn't have the cash.
He does not have the cash.
That's clear.
He's represented that. He may have some of it, and I'm going to get to that in a minute because I think everybody imagines come Monday, if this doesn't go his way, Letitia James is going to be there with the New York State Troopers with a padlock. They may put liens on properties, but they may also come and seize what cash he has, which could throw the Trump organization. And can they even meet their payroll come Tuesday if this goes forward? There are so many unknowns that are going to happen. But the other thing is that he just now, backing up to the appeals court that's going to rule, they could just reject him and then he can appeal that and go to a higher court. But Monday is still a deadline that he is facing.
Okay, so let's say, there's some off-road for an appeals court, possible. Yeah. Let's say that off-road doesn't happen. Yeah. So before we get to the showing up the padlock, could you, again, this is all, it's fairly uncharted, right? Could you just do like a friendly loan? Like, yes. Could Elon Musk say, yes, it would be very useful for me as Elon Musk to have the nominee of one of the two major parties and the possible future president owe me an enormous amount of favor.
Right.
I'm going to post $500 million for him.
Right. That's one, I would imagine that one option is somebody could come forward and they could say, we're going to give this to you as a gift or a loan. Those are both taxable events and would cost the person doing it, and there would be paperwork involved. But that is one option. And the other option is that he could find somebody who he has a friendly transaction with to sell some properties.
Oh, I see. So like a quick sale.
One that I'm thinking of, and I don't have any reporting on this to say that it's happening. He owns a hotel in Las Vegas with a fellow by the name of Phil Ruffin. They are on very good terms. Phil Ruffin is a supporter of his politically. Phil Ruffin could say, I'm going to buy you out of your half of the hotel. And they could do a friendly transaction that would not take a long time. And let's say that transaction, any transaction that he comes up with, takes 60 days. Donald Trump may come to the courts and say, I'd like a little bit of extra time. I would imagine does Letitia James want to trigger? She might give him, she might say okay, she might not, but that's another thing that could happen.
Okay, so someone loans him or gives him the money. I don't think gift, but someone loans the money. Some kind of friendly, relatively fast and streamlined financial transaction, like
or one or two, because he needs a lot of money.
Right. So a partner buys him out of his half of the Vegas casino, being an example.
And there's one other one, just really quickly. You know, the appeals bonds that he's trying to arrange, there still could happen. There's been a lot of negotiation, and when I read that in a paper, you know, in the court papers, I think, well, there was a lot of discussion potentially about taking real estate as collateral. I still don't rule that out. I think it's unlikely, but who knows, right? It's just another option.
It just seems like if you take real estate as collateral, you just have enormous downside risk.
Huge.
Depending on what happens to the guy.
And some of them
like,
have loans on them, so they already
Right.
have obligations against them.
Yeah.
Right.
If anyone's watching this and wants my financial advice, I'm just letting you know I see some downside risk.
I don't want an office tower in New York either.
Yeah,
They're
right.
half full.
Right. Well, that's another great point. So, okay, now we get to the appeals court no offer out on the appeals court. He can't find someone to lend him the money or to raise the cash through sale. What happens then?
Then Letitia James comes to the court and she will start putting liens on the properties. I don't think we're going to see a situation where they're padlocked and she's going to take them and sell them, because she may have to give those back at the end if he is successful on appeal.
Right.
So that's a whole nother issue, but she will start to take possession potentially of properties or of if he has cash sitting there in accounts, that's also fair game, or also obligations that he has coming in. She could seize a rent roll. There's just so many options.
She could do that.
My understanding is yes, yeah. So
Or the cash that he had. Like, if, let's
Right,
say
and
there's
that's
$40 million
really-
sitting in an account that they make payroll, whatever it is.
Right, and that's pretty, when you think about it from the Trump organization's point of view, they need cash to run the business. So these are all really scary things they are facing coming out of that massive court case that we had, where they were found to have committed widespread fraud. But these are all the things, we just don't know what's going to happen, but these are just some of the options that people are talking about, that, you know, when they're looking at what are the potential things that could happen come Monday if it gets to Monday and we have a seizure.
Can I just circle around? I mean, this may be outside of your portfolio, so tell me if it is, but I'm just trying to sort of put this in context. When you said, you know, this sort of thing we're sort of out past the frontier. I mean,
right.
When the tobacco settlement happens, or, you know, there's enormous civil settlements or civil judgments sometimes that happen. Now, usually when there's settlements, right, you're structuring them over time.
That's right.
But even if there's an enormous judgment, right, are those just normally structured in different ways, or do they tend to be against better capitalized firms? Like,
usually that, or the other thing that's really significant about this is Donald Trump let it get to this point.
Right.
He should have settled this.
Right.
And
That's
I don't know. I mean, I think
Usually
at some
something
point
like
that
this-
might have been on the table. I think Letitia James at a certain point was pretty hell-bent on bringing this to trial. But because it got to this point, it is so severe now. And the options are just every day are getting fewer and fewer for him.
Right, and presumably, I mean, I hadn't thought of this before, but presumably one of the reasons that settlement is attractive is, aside from taking some discount on the total dollar amount where you're rolling the dice with a judge or a jury, you're also going to, as part of the settlement, figure out the structure of those payments.
Right.
Precisely so that you do not end up in the situation where you're maybe selling your office tower on a Sunday.
And another part of it is that you can't do business with any banks in New York, right? I mean, there's other pieces to this,
Right.
too, that are just quite frightening for the Trump organization. I mean, they've boxed themselves in, and now they have until Monday. And there could be some sort of relief coming from the appeals court. But so far, the appeals court has said, no, they offered the $100 million as a sort of, can you meet us there while we go up on appeal? And that was rejected. And they may now say 200 or 300 is enough, with some other condition that I haven't thought of. And so that's sort of what we're waiting for immediately. I think we're going to see that before Monday.
All right, look for that. That was
Thank
so illuminating. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Really appreciate it.